Well, we taxpayers got a win. Woohoo! I'm going to tell you about that, and I'm also going to tell you about the Atlantic failure. You've probably already heard about it, but I've got a little additional details here that you might not have heard of yet. So stick with me, folks, and I'll be right with you. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and yeah, we've got one going here. Guess who this is? This is the guy who's the director of the Office of Management and Budget, and he tweeted this out, and it has to do with a previous video that I did that we talked about this program, and I said this is one we got to watch because this is sad. It's infiltrated everywhere in our government. Well, guess what? The days of taxpayer-funded indoctrination trainings that sow division and racism are over. Under the direction of POTUS, we are directing agencies to halt critical race theory trainings immediately. And here is the memo. It really is good here. It says, it has come to the president's attention that executive branch agencies have spent millions of taxpayer dollars to date, quote, training government workers to believe divisive anti-American propaganda. For example, according to press reports, employees across the executive branch have been required to attend trainings where they were told that, quote, virtually all white people contribute to racism, or where they are required to say that they, quote, benefit from racism. According to press reports, in some cases, these trainings have further claimed that there is racism embedded in the belief that America is the land of opportunity, or the belief that the most qualified person should receive a job. Gee, what a concept, you know? These types of, quote, trainings not only run counter to the fundamental beliefs for which our nation has stood since its inception, but they also engender division and resentment within the federal workforce. We can be proud that as an employer, the federal government has employees of all races, ethnicities, and religions. We can be proud that Americans from all over the country seek to join our workforce and dedicate themselves to public service. We can be proud of our continued efforts to welcome all individuals who seek to serve their fellow Americans as federal employees. However, we cannot accept our employees receiving training that seeks to undercut our core values as Americans and drive division within our workforce. The President has directed me to ensure that the federal agencies cease and desist from using taxpayer dollars to fund these divisive, un-American propaganda training sessions. Accordingly, to that end, the Office of Management and Budget will shortly issue more detailed guidance on implementing the President's directive. In the meantime, all agencies are directed to begin to identify all contracts or other agency spending related to any training on, quote, critical race theory, quote, white privilege, or any other training or propaganda effort that teaches or suggests either one, that the United States is an inherently racist or evil country, or two, that any race or ethnicity is inherently racist or evil. Woo! This is just great. In addition, all agencies should begin to identify all available avenues within the law to cancel any such contracts and or to divert federal dollars away from these un-American propaganda training sessions. Wow, telling it like it is. The President and his administration are fully committed to the fair and equal treatment of all individuals in the United States. The President has a proven track record of standing for those whose voice has long been ignored and who have failed to benefit from all our country has to offer. And he intends to continue to support all Americans regardless of race, religion, or creed. The divisive, false, and demeaning propaganda of the critical race theory movement is contrary to all we stand for as Americans and should have no place in the federal government. Woohoo! I mean, really, isn't that just awesome? That was so well put together, and it says it. It just says it like it is. If you haven't seen that other video of mine, you really need to go see what this stuff teaches, because it's disturbing, and it's really disturbing knowing that our money was going for it. So this is music to my ears to hear this. Well, you know, the cancel culture has really gone too far, and I need to draw your attention to this. Now, this was, William put this in my comments down below, and it's just a very sad story that you all need to hear, because cancel culture ruined his life. And we all need to be aware of this happening to regular people, not just the big names or anything. So here's what he says. He says, came across this image scrolling Instagram a few days ago and thought that it could be shopped to say all lives matter. Okay. So that's all he was going to do. Change it and Photoshop it. Okay. Notice he's not there. He's not going to deface what they have already painted there. He's just going to Photoshop a picture. Okay. Easy then added a Pepe Angelo painting and some cartoon of the chief, President Trump and everything. There's Pepe. All right. And changed it to all lives matter, right? So I posted on Instagram thinking some may laugh while others may feel trolled. And well, the next day my phone started blowing up with vile, hateful, violent comments and yes, many death threats. Guess some thought the actual skate spot was vandalized, which is not in my character at all. My nickname is Willie the Saint for a reason. Then the cancel cult of cancel culture started tagging my place of work and all the accounts of brands that the typical skate shop carries with the goal of my being fired. Cancel culture succeeded. And this is what was posted. We have been made aware of a terrible situation. Please read our post. Thank you for your patience and understanding. It was the safest thing to do because the cancel cult of cancel culture threatened the business with vandalism and who knows what else. Since I am no longer in contact with my employer, I'll never know. And so this is what they posted. Hi, folks. We have just received some very disturbing news today and are devastated by it. I mean, serious, devastated because somebody photoshopped a picture. Oh, man. They are just really off the deep end. We take this matter very seriously and are taking care of the problem now without delay. As of immediately, Will is no longer associated in any way with our shop. His actions were and are his own and have zero to do with us. Okay, all he did was change it from saying Black Lives Matter to All Lives Matter. That's all he did. And remind me again, but aren't Black lives fit into the all lives? Because if you say all lives, then you're including Black lives, right? Okay, unless there's some other species or something. I mean, it would be insulting to think that Black lives don't fall under the umbrella of all. But that's evidently how they view things. It's just a bizarro world. It really is. And so it goes on and says, his actions were and are his own and have zero to do with us. He never was an owner on any level, not related to us, and does not speak for us in any way, shape, or form. We do not condone his behavior and his actions and have determined it best to part ways with him immediately. Boy, they threw you under the bus, didn't they, Will? Wow, this is just incredible that this could happen to an American. We are deeply sorry for any misunderstandings, hurt, wrongdoing, and problems his actions have caused. We also understand the confusion his actions have caused, but he does not speak for us, and we have terminated all connections with him. We are so very sorry, and thank you for your patience and understanding. Can you believe that? Wow, all he did was Photoshop a picture. It's not like he committed a capital crime or anything. He committed no crime. But, they're treating him like he did. Anyway, so then it goes on, and he says, I'm not deleting anything, though some say I should. Not apologizing, though some think it'd be best. Nothing I do is hateful, and nothing I did is wrong, for my message is with unity. We can accomplish anything. Well, I love you all, and hope my story opens some eyes. Oh, and here's a link to my post, so if you want to see the Instagram post, it's right there. Remember, these people think they are doing the right thing. I would never sue my employers, so please don't ask. They have closed their doors, deleted the business Instagram account, and moved out of Austin. Fear is powerful and punishment enough. I mean, can you believe that? That they caved so easily to the cancel culture. Very hesitant to start a GoFundMe campaign, but 2 months without work and my home will be torn down October 1st. Time is running out. So here is a GoFundMe if you want to, help him out here. He doesn't have very much in it, but, that's a story. It really is. And I think we need to remember people like this because they're not the big names. They're not the ones in the news. But you know what, Will? maybe you ought to contact somebody like Tucker Carlson or Dan Bongino or Sean Hannity or something, because you never know. This is a story that they might want to put out there. So you can try. It's a story worth telling. And here's his YouTube channel. He only has 4 subscribers and 2 videos, but you know what? This is my Patriot Shoutout for the night. So I think y'all ought to go subscribe to Will and, watch his videos, give him thumbs up, play him through, because, hey, he needs to get a voice out there, and he needs to make sure that he's heard for what he's been through. So there you go. I'm going to leave all these links down below for you, and you can check him out. And like I said, he's only got a couple videos at this point, but Will, put more up. In fact, you need to put some with you in there telling your story. I would love to see that. So there you go. This is one that I think you need to look into. Well, that's not the only person who's being intimidated by the Black Lives Matter protesters. They're not protesters. They're rioters when they do this. Well, check this one out. She's sitting here. They went down there. I'm not sure why they were there, but watch this.
We're being chased by a mob of people outside the police station, a mob of Black Lives Matter protesters. They've already thrown shit at us. The police are not here. We're trying to get away from them. They're attacking gay people. Attacking women.
Are you here with him? Then you do some work. This ain't time for fucking conversation.
We're basically running to the end of the street right now because that's where the cops are.
Calling phone.
Yeah, that's how it ended. And she does go on down here and say that we are all okay. And no, obviously she can get my phone. I may not look like much, but she had nothing on me. For the record, this isn't even the worst of what happened. We were just standing there and they descended on us and started screaming and throwing stuff at us and then chased us down the street. They stole and broke the phone of another person on our group. This is ridiculous. And, those of us who live out in the sticks like me, we do have disadvantages, like I can't do live streaming from my house, but I don't have to deal with this. And I feel so bad for the people who do. This is happening in more and more places. And, you can't call them peaceful protesters. And when people try to say, well, it's mostly peaceful, you say, yeah, mostly. How many does it take? How many evil people that are bent on destroying another person? How many of those does it take to make it bad? I mean, it's dangerous. And this definitely needs to be stopped. Well, here's another group. Now, I'm not going to play this. I'll play it, but I'm not going to have the sound because a lot of it's the F word and everything. The other one was bad enough. But if you look at this, okay, here's these guys, and this guy is just trying to go in there and get some gas for his truck, and they're being idiots. If you're in the street, you shouldn't play stupid games and win stupid prizes. Well, he didn't actually hurt any of them, but he kept pressing forward, and of course, they see the guy with the black leggings there. Oh, he's going to hold that truck back. Like that's really going to happen. And so they're just pushing. And of course, the whole time they're calling him racist. They're calling him everything under the sun and complaining about it. And then they go over here. Once he finally gets to the pump, then he gets out. He gets to the pump, he gets out, and they kind of, back off. But they're still screaming at him the whole time. They're screaming at this guy. He's not a young guy. And he's just trying to get gas in his vehicle. And anyway, it goes on. And again, there's just so much foul language here. I really don't want to do this. And then there's this guy.
Vehicle and tried to pass it through a peaceful protest and tried to kill us. That's exactly what happened. This is why, when we tried to tell you, we're trying to keep this damn city calm, and this is what is happening right now.
This Josh Gillen and friends, folks.
That's
they
it.
will run their car.
That's it.
So you act like they didn't do anything wrong.
You want to talk about inciting a riot?
And look
That's
at
a riot.
the deliberately came here to cause destruction.
That's called domestic.
Deliberately
That's
came
called
here to
domestic
cause
terrorism.
destruction.
That's a domestic terrorist. Make sure.
So you want to know what domestic terrorists look like? They look like an old guy just trying to gas up his truck. That's evidently what domestic terrorists... I mean, really, is that just a total rewrite of reality? What you saw happen and what this guy claimed happened? It's so totally opposite. It's bizarre. But this is Bizarro World, and I thought this was kind of funny. This is where I actually got the clip from. This guy right here, not the B, because that's his channel. He says he had to make the channel on YouTube because Facebook wouldn't allow him to post the video. So it's kind of funny when you go through this. He says, let's unpack it and break the whole thing down. It's pretty funny when you go through, after you watch the video, then you go through and you read what he had to say about it. I thought that was pretty good. So, yeah, I'll leave those links down below for you too. Well, guess what? Mayor Pete Buttigieg here. Yep, he's got to make his voice known because, remember, he served in the National Guard. Yeah, he got in under the clause, that allows people that just have connections to get in. He just was kind of passed through because of who he knew. And he spent his whole time overseas in just an office. And so he didn't really see anything. He wasn't involved in anything. And he came back. I mean, he was mayor of South Bend while he was doing this. And so he took a leave of absence as mayor so he could do his National Guard duty, which I don't mind. It's just kind of, odd. It's like, well, you just got this office and then you go running off, and it's just kind of odd. That's not a position you would expect to just be able to pick up and go and do something like that. But he did, and really South Bend didn't suffer any while he was gone, as far as I know. And so now he thinks he has a corner on knowing what veterans think. Okay? And so he says, if you're used to voting Republican, years from now, your grandkids will ask what you did in this moment, and you will have to tell them if you were a John McCain Republican or a Donald Trump Republican. You can't be both. The choice is yours. Now, I put in, hey, I agree with you on this. You're going to have to make a choice. Do you want to be a rhino traitor to the country, lining my pockets Republican like John McCain? Or do you want to be a love my country, hug my flag, and do the best for the American people Republican like Donald Trump? Yeah, I'm choosing Trump. So, just didn't come out the way I think Pete expected it, because he thought that was going to get all these Republicans, and I don't know why it didn't come up here, but there's all kinds of comments underneath there. But he thought it was going to come up with all these Republicans thinking, well, I want to be like John McCain. It's like, no, very few of us want to be like John McCain. And those are the rhinos and the people that have connections in the deep state and everything. We don't want to be like John McCain. We know what he did. We know what he did to our country. And we know how he spent the time lining his own pockets instead of doing what was the best for the American people. Nope, gonna choose Trump all the time. And I think many, many people are going to do that, and especially veterans, because, they know what the truth is. Well, of course, you all heard about the Atlantic, and, I know by now you've heard the story, and you've heard also that President Trump said it's not true, and of course everyone's saying it's not true, except for the person that wrote it, but we're going to talk about him in a minute. Anyway, of course, Melania Trump hits back. The Atlantic story is not true. She tweeted it out, and she had a really good tweet here. It says, the Atlantic story is not true. It has become a very dangerous time when anonymous sources are believed above all else, and no one knows their motivation. This is not journalism. It is activism. And it is a disservice to the people of our great nation. Amen, sister. That is exactly it. And, that says it all right there. She is right. You've got to know who the sources are, because you need to know if those sources have an axe to grind. And if they do, it makes them less reliable. and less valid than someone who's not a disgruntled employee or someone who just hates Trump. So knowing who the source is very important. And of course, there is no source on this one. It was made up, fabricated, or it was given by somebody who hates Trump. And that's the sole purpose. They have Trump derangement syndrome, and that's why it says what it is. But anyway, Techno Fog here has, of course, he always goes for the documents. I like Techno Fog here. On that Atlantic story, Jeffrey Goldberg, who's the author of the story, and his quote, 4 sources claim Trump's helicopter flight to the U.S. French cemetery wasn't canceled due to weather. FOIA docs prove this to be false. Their, quote, sources are failing basic fact checks, making them essentially worthless. So, you go in and it does say that it was inclement weather and that they were not able to take the helicopter to the Normandy beaches. Now, I guarantee, from what I've seen of President Trump, he would have loved to have been at the Normandy beaches. I've been there, and it is a sight to see. If you can ever manage to make it there, please do. Because you look out in this American cemetery, you look out and you see just these white crosses and the stars of David and everything. As far as you can see, you see them. And it just brings home exactly what the price was paid for us to have our freedoms. I mean, you can't see that and not think about the price that was paid for us. So I am positive that if President Trump could have made it that day, he would have. However, if you recall, I remember him speaking at a different French cemetery there for the Americans, and it was closer into Paris, so he didn't have to go very far for this. Now, part of the deal is, if you know anything about the president, when he travels places, it's like a huge entourage, and they really have to shut down streets while his entourage goes by. And I'm pretty sure that probably the mayor of Paris was not extremely thrilled with having to shut down any more streets just to let Trump drive all the way up to the cemetery in northern France. So again, he could have driven it. That is possible. But the Secret Service and the Navy were saying, we're not taking the helicopter. We just can't. The weather is not good. I remember that speech. It was one of those days where it's the fog and the light, misty rain constantly. And when he got done with that speech, the coat he was wearing was drenched. I mean, it really was. He had no umbrella over him. I remember that very well. So all of these claims that he was doing it, because he didn't want his hair to get wet or whatever, that is so bogus. Remember Obama? He had to have the umbrella over him. But oh no, not Trump. Trump just got out there, he made his speech, he stood in the rain, and he gave the truth, and he praised the men that had given their lives for us. So the idea that he called them losers or suckers, that is ridiculous. Absolutely. And if you go down here, you can see some more of them. And he said, here's the Jason Leopold tweet from 2019 about these Navy FOIA records he obtained. See, we've had these FOIA records since 2019 when he put this out. Today, Jeffrey Goldberg described how the Atlantic was extra careful on this story. Also seems inaccurate. Documents got by Leopold proved them wrong. Great job, Jason. And here's the FOIA from the Department of Navy. Remember last November when White House said Trump could not attend World War I memorial at U.S. Cemetery in France due to rain? Well, his transport really was canceled by the Navy due to rain. And here are the emails that prove it. So there you go. You can read them. You get here and, they're pretty small when you bring them up, but you'll be able to read them if you view the document. But anyway, yeah, I remember that day. I remember watching the speech, and it was not a nice day, and I can understand why they wouldn't have taken the helicopter. And again, when you travel with the president, it blocks off a lot of traffic. It really messes things up. And so I can also understand how maybe the French people did not want to mess things up with their traffic just for President Trump to take a little trip. So I I totally believe Trump on this, definitely. Well, anyway, this guy says the Atlantic lie is a dead story with John Bolton's revealing Trump didn't say what they said he said. So this is so funny because we all know John Bolton has no love for Trump. That's right. But he even said, no, he didn't say that. So that's kind of funny. It's like they just keep trying to throw that stuff onto President Trump, and Teflon Don, nothing sticks. A narrative that was stopped within 24 hours and after Joe Biden was put on the record. This was likely their October surprise, issued a bit early to sound out Hairgate. But where Pelosi blowout is still going strong, the Atlantic lie is dead. The left is losing. We are winning. Today, the stoking for civil war has increased intensity. They need this. Civil war is their last card, and they are out of ammo. Always remember, civil war is for the losers. Trump and we the people are winning. We need peace and patience through to 11/3/20. Never interrupt an enemy when they are in the process of destroying themselves. And it is true. It's like this is a series of traps almost. They bait them, and sure enough, the left just jumps at that bait and takes it, and then they totally expose themselves for their true selves. Oh, anyway, guess what? I'm not sure if you noticed this. After that Atlantic piece came out, very shortly after, I mean, just within hours, there was this Trump hit piece, this commercial, this ad that the left put out that was, oh, veterans, come vote for us because we're not going to say those things about you. Yeah, how'd they know so fast? Don't you love that picture? Isn't that great? Check out this guy here. He's doing a Pepe. I think that's funny. Oh, he's an Anon. You go, guy. Anyway, you can go down here, and there's several pictures. I mean, I remember that. I remember so many of these things, and it's like, how can you say, yeah, here it was Rachel Maddow who said his hair would be blown out of place. He didn't believe it was important to honor America's war dead. Those are just such lies. I mean, huge, huge lies. By the way, Joe's going to have to deal with this one of these days. Definitely. Anyway, so, you had that. And, of course, this is from, I don't forget when they posted this, but it was posted. It was on Instagram, I guess it was. Okay, so let's just look at what the Anons have found about the guy that wrote the article. Guess what? He's done some other writing that you might be familiar with. He's the guy who was spreading the weapons of mass destruction lie about Iraq. Look at this. I know, small. There we go. Jeffrey Goldberg, check it out. So back in 2002, he was the one that talked about, there's these weapons of mass destruction. And then in 2010, yes, I know I started the Iraq war because he was spreading the lies about the weapons of mass destruction. And then he's spreading the lies now about Trump. So he has really a habit of spreading lies. I'll leave the link to this down below so you can check those out again if you want to. But yeah, that's who he is. Great guy. Well, the veterans know the truth. And this is an amazing piece. You gotta read this one. I'll read you just part of it, but it is beautifully written. And believe it or not, this is on NBC News website. I know, I was shocked too when I found out. But this was a veteran who Trump came to Dover after my wife was killed fighting ISIS. He absolutely respects our service. I'd never met a president before Donald Trump. His empathy and thoughtfulness on one of the worst days of my life won my gratitude. And there she is. Yeah. So sad. But he says, "Hey, Joe," a quiet but familiar voice said to me from the doorway of a small room with plush furniture. The room was meant to provide as much comfort as possible for the families of military members on the worst day of their life, the day the remains of their loved ones are returned to them at Dover Air Force Base. I had been alone in the room for only a few minutes and was exhausted but restless. The previous 3 days felt like 3 years and 3 minutes all at once, because so much had been taken from my family so quickly and irrevocably that I felt like I was back at war and had just gotten attacked, but unlike in war, I couldn't fight back. The voice from the doorway, though, was familiar because it belonged to a man I'd seen on television countless times, President Donald Trump. As he approached me, he extended his right hand to shake mine, placed his left hand on my shoulder, looked me in the eyes, and said, "I'm so sorry for your loss. Shannon was an amazing woman and warrior." I still have no idea what exactly I said in response. The days after my wife, Shannon Kent, was killed by a suicide bomber during a mission to fight ISIS in Syria in January 2019 had been such a blur, and anyway, I'd never met a president before. But, I am told, I thanked President Trump, and I remember he held eye contact with me, and in his eyes I could see unmistakably the same pain I'd seen in the eyes of other senior leaders who ultimately bear the responsibility for sending men and women to their deaths in combat. As we unclasped our hands, the president said to me, "Shannon was the real deal. We are lucky to have people like her willing to go out there and face evil for us." He kept his arm on my shoulder. Together, as we waited for the plane that would bring Shannon home, we spent another 20 minutes talking about my wife, our children, and what an amazing mother, wife, and soldier she was. It was clear to me that President Trump truly cared, not just that Shannon and 3 others had been killed in Syria, but about who Shannon and the 3 others were as people. Then the president did something that I did not expect. He asked me what I thought about Syria and what we were doing there. He talked to me, a Green Beret and a combat veteran, not some expert at the Pentagon or a think tank, about the wisdom leaving troops in harm's way once ISIS territorial caliphate had been destroyed. It was clear to me that he was deeply conflicted about whether staying in Syria was worth the lives lost, Shannon and her 3 colleagues, on that day in January. I mean, this is just tremendous. Read the rest of it. I'm not at the bottom of it yet, but there's more to it. This makes you cry. Okay. What a spectacular thing for him to say. And he knows, he experienced what it's like to be with President Trump. And I got to tell you, there was a book I had to read in high school, and it was about John F. Kennedy. It was called The Pleasure of His Company. And I wonder if somewhere along the line, someone's going to write a book about President Trump, because people see him from afar and they may think he's all blustery and everything. But from all the accounts that I'm hearing, when you are actually in his presence, there's just something special there. And you can see right through to his heart. So I think this is just wonderful. This needs to be shared, and it's on NBC News site. I just think that's wonderful. Well, not everyone appreciates what our National Guard and our military can do. This one, the Oregon governor, she says, "I'm not deploying National Guard to Portland because they aren't trained." They aren't trained? I mean, serious. That's pretty insulting to every National Guard person. Did you know you don't go through training? Wow, they'll be surprised to hear that. I'm pretty sure they go through a lot of training, and they are trained to deal with situations just like you have. So she sits there, she doesn't want the National Guard, and she's ready to let her state burn because they're not needed. They're not needed or trained. What a nutter. I'm just getting so tired of these guys. They're crazy. These people are crazy. Okay, now, in case you didn't know, when Joe Biden went to Kenosha, he did get a chance to answer some questions from reporters. Yeah, right. Hand-picked questions. Pretty much most of them, and we're going to talk about that in just a second here. Pretty much most of them were like, how bad do you hate Donald Trump? Anyway, this one, the very first question, was of course given to the Atlantic reporter who asked about Trump's soul. And this is Bozo here. It's not a very good recording of it, Joe Biden's campaign kicked off a round of questions with the candidate Friday by selecting an Atlantic reporter who asked him to comment on President Trump's soul and the life he leads. I mean, it's just, if you go through this, it's like it was a coordinated effort, you know? Like they had the Atlantic story, they had that political ad all keyed up, ready to go, and then they had this. So they are all working together. I mean, we know it's coordinated. In the second to last video I just did, I had this lady where she admitted that they had given her a paper to read off of, a script of some kind, and she refused to read off of it. Now, I know some people said she's a patriot. Well, you need to hear the whole thing. And I'm going to leave this down below, but I just want to play part of hers. She is definitely in that black mindset where life is not fair for us. But I'm going to say she probably is right, because if she lives in a Democrat-controlled city, that's life. And life is not fair, but it's not President Trump's fault. It is the Democrats running the city and their fault. Listen to what she has to say here.
That's all we're asking. We want the same treatment. We're not asking, oh, put us above anybody. We're not saying we matter more than anybody. None of that. But for so many decades, we've been shown we don't matter. And right now, we just want someone who's actually going to show and put that action in. It's a lot of stuff we want done. And being someone who is out here, I literally live directly behind this church. I know the pastor. I come over and help with the food pantry some days. So I know it. I see it. I live it. Others who don't see it and live it can't tell you the truth. They can't really give you the in-depth things that we're going through out here as black and brown people. So I'm telling you, there's way more that we want done. And it didn't just start with Jacob. But we want change. We want change. So I thank you for coming to hear me.
But sadly, she's not going to get any change as long as she votes Democrat. This is the problem. It's like the Einstein quote. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. You're not going to get it as long as you keep voting for the Democrats. They've proven it. She says that it didn't start with Jacob. No, it didn't. It's been going on for a very long time because you've been putting Democrats in charge for a very long time. And as long as you keep voting the same people in from the same party with the same ideology, nothing's going to change. And so my heart goes out to her, but the whole situation is, as long as they continue to vote Democrat, nothing's going to change. It's the same people in charge. It's the same party doing the same things. So I wanted to play it for you. It's not that she's necessarily really Black Lives Matter thing. She did say earlier in this that she understood the difference between a protest and rioters. So, you know, she does say that. She's making a lot of sense. And like I said, what I believe she's saying is probably accurate, but it seems like she's kind of pointing the finger at Trump instead of pointing the finger at the people that really are doing it. And Joe Biden's not a person who's going to help her out. Joe won't do anything to make her situation better. It's going to get worse. So I hope she wisens up and can understand that Joe's not going to help her. Not at all. So I wanted to share that with you because I do want to be accurate and make sure that you understand. The reason it was cut off before was because then she started launching into a lot of the Democrat talking points. I don't want to mislead you. I just didn't have time on that one to go find the real clip and watch the whole thing. I found it right before I recorded, so I know I shouldn't do that, but I did, and I thought it was good, and I wanted to show it to you. Anyway, this is from Byron York, and he says, many of the questions for Joe Biden after his remarks today consisted of reporters asking Joe Biden to elaborate on how bad Trump is. A list, not exact quotes. And then he goes through and he puts these up here, and, you know, it was just like giving Joe Biden setups so he could talk about Orange Man bad. That's pretty much what it was. What does the Atlantic article tell you about Trump's soul and the life he leads? What would you say to supporters of QAnon? And what would you say to President Trump for not rejecting that conspiracy? Trump mocked you for wearing a mask. He said that even though he knows wearing masks saves lives. Not proven scientifically. Give me the scientific proof. Doesn't exist. Do you worry that his rhetoric will deter Americans from wearing masks? No! Actual science will deter us. That's what will. Have you been tested for COVID-19? And this is really the kinds of softball things they were lobbing at him. And it was just basically saying, so tell me more about how bad the Orange Man is. Yeah, just tell me how much you hate him, what a bad job he's doing. That's what the kind of questions they gave him. And his staff chose which people, so I'm kind of thinking it was all set up ahead of time, especially with that lady. And even this, when you go through, you can watch this whole thing if you want to, but it's like people talk. Short time here where Joe talks, and then people talk. Even this, he never responded to her. He didn't say any response. Then another person got up and they talked. That's what it was. It was just people talking. Then all of a sudden you had just a few minutes here in the middle where old Joe's actually saying something, and then it's back to people talk, and Joe just stands there and doesn't respond. So, yeah. Anyway, just thought I would show these to you. Again, you can look at them more if you want to. And then this guy puts up, check out some of the hard-hitting pieces that The Atlantic has written about Joe Biden. They actually look like Babylon Bee headlines. And some of these, I mean, they really do when you look at them. In defense of naked Joe Biden, the most influential vice president in history. Really? It's totally normal that Joe Biden's son works for a Ukrainian energy company. Yeah, The Atlantic is Joe's friend. Yeah, you can tell that from all of these. Stay alive, Joe. Run, Joe, run. Why Democrats need a Biden candidacy. Biden gets China. Yeah, he gets to be China's little puppet. Can the Times bare-chested Biden be explained? Biden tells third graders Obama is really cool. Joe Biden, crazy like a fox. Yeah. Oh, how about this one? Joe Biden's dating advice for girls. Oh my. That's scary, isn't it? So, yeah, I thought you'd want to see that. That's just crazy. Well, you know what? People can handle questions. Some people can. And they can really take on the press when they need to. This is Richard Grinnell. I need you to watch this.
Clearly, you were effective here as the special envoy to these talks between Serbia and Kosovo. But I wanted to ask you about another initiative you led. Last year, you kicked off the Trump administration push to decriminalize homosexuality.
Yeah, I'm going to just talk about Kosovo and Serbia. I don't know if you can find it on a map, but this is atrocious. I have to tell you guys, you might be too young to understand what this issue is about. Maybe the older journalists should step up and say, this is a big deal. This is a big issue. I'm astounded at what happens in Washington, D.C., and especially in this room. I got to tell you, get substantive. Maybe it's too complicated of an issue for you all. But
this is the first time we've had the opportunity to speak with these individuals. So
okay, but today's about Kosovo and Serbia. Let's take a little time and talk about this 21-year issue, Peter. I mean, 21-year issue. We're getting the same questions that are all politics. You guys don't understand what's happening outside of Washington, D.C. People aren't listening to you anymore. It's really a crisis in journalism. And I think it's because people are too young to understand issues like Kosovo and Serbia. How about a substantive question?
I don't think any of us came here for a lecture about our questioning.
Okay, well, I didn't come here to
But the question I would like to ask you,
the question.
Oh, when I watched that the first time, I laughed all the way through it. I had a hard time keeping a straight face while I was listening to it this time. Well, anyway, this Aaron Rupar says, I don't know if you could find Kosovo and Serbia on a map, which is what he said when he told him. This is atrocious. Maybe it's too complicated of an issue for you all. I was laughing at that. It's a disgrace that taxpayers are paying Richard Grinnell to smugly insult reporters. Well, y'all don't know stuff, and you're asking stupid questions. And Richard Cannell knows the truth. So he says, I'm not paid. You get this advice for free. You're welcome. I love this guy. Oh, he does a great job, and I really like the way he deflected the question that they were trying to ask and brought it back to what it was. This was a briefing about the whole situation over there, and this is what ticks me off about these reporters. You know, sometimes President Trump will have a visiting dignitary from another country in his office, in the Oval Office, and the reporters come in and they ask stupid questions of President Trump instead of focusing on the topic at hand. And that person sits there, president of some country or whatever, and that person sits there and is totally ignored. So, you know, if it were me, I would make a few different rules for the whole White House press, because that, I think, is so rude to the visiting dignitary. And in cases like this, you know, here you have Richard Grinnell coming in there, and then they just ask dumb questions that show they have no understanding of the subject at hand. Just crazy, but he did a great job. Well, the last thing I have to share with you is this, and I showed you this once before, so I'll just show you again here. This was when President Trump went to Pennsylvania, and you can see... Okay, so very, very big crowd, right? And you can watch this whole thing if you want to. It's 44 seconds of people just cheering like that, and he makes the rounds, and you can see it's packed. There's a bunch of people there. Well, here's the scene in Hazelwood Green less than an hour before Joe Biden is expected to make a campaign stop. Yep, there it is. Okay. And there it is. There they stand. I don't even know how many of them there are. It's not very many. So, yep, that's it. Oh, what a massive crowd. So, this is why the Democrats are so scared. Anyway, I know I showed you this before, but I just think the contrast between these two is just wonderful to see. So, before I go, I want to remind you that on September 11th, at 9 o'clock p.m., I'm going to have an actual live stream. Not just the live chat, but it's going to be live stream. I hope. Hopefully we can get it pulled together by then, and my nephew's going to be helping me, and I think maybe we can do it, but we'll find out. It's going to be the first one for me like that, and so I hope all of you will come so I don't look like an idiot just sitting there talking to myself. But anyway, I hope you'll come. I'll have a bunch of tabs open and we'll just go through them. I don't know how long it'll last. Probably not much more than an hour, though, because I tend to run out of steam. We'll just see how it goes. We're playing it by ear. So I hope you'll join us. It's going to be September 11th. Easy date to remember, right? And then it's going to be 9 o'clock at night. Maybe we should start at 9/11. That would be significant, right? We'll talk a little bit about 9/11. And then we'll deal with some other stuff too, whatever's coming up in the news. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.